Welcome to channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now, just a little bit of introductory to our Thai services. So, if you're in Thailand and you speak Thai, we have just opened up a Thai services. So, why don't you utilize that link down there, www.amecnews.com/Thai booking, and you probably will get into a Google form where it's all in the language of Thai. So, utilize that, and we will have our Thai consultants contact you in regards to perhaps study abroad or visa service to Australia. Anyway, let's chat about the reason that you're clicking into this video. Is obviously there has been so many viewers leaving messages overwhelmingly asking in regards to is it good, is it stable, is it a good choices of choosing employment sponsor visa. Obviously that's where the government of Australia is looking to pushing towards. Now in this video we would like to discuss three of the major points, three of major ways that an employer sponsor visa may not go through, or they may not wish to sponsor or continue to sponsor you to become a permanent resident. Now, it's a very vital question because it's the same thing. Now, I've got a viewer left a question or query in regards to what you have just foresee the question there. Now, my answer back is but the Australian government had never really promised that if you come and study, I don't know, cybersecurity or study medical, that you will definitely become a permanent resident. So there has never been a promise at the beginning, and it shall not be, because a visa services, it shall be treated just like any of the financial products, right? So if you want to go and buy a stock or buy ETF or whatever the financial investment that you're moving or you're targeting towards, obviously there's no one, and it's nowadays, in the modern days, it's against the law that you will have such promise or guarantee, because you just cannot foresee the risk that will come, or perhaps any or whatever the incidents coming. It's just, for instance, you know, if you wanted to buy into a stock, whatever the stock that is, back in 2019. Now, what happened in 2020? It went straight down because we just did not foresee the coming of COVID, right? Now, it's the same thing that you should treat it in the same manner or attitude towards a visa. So there's no way that one should promise or guarantee an employment sponsor visa will actually get you a pathway to become a permanent resident, although the pathway is open. But whether you actually go through and identify all the items has been ticked, that's another question there. Now, today I would like to discuss the three major points that an employment sponsor will decline and not to continue to sponsor you. Now, the first one is obviously the employer did not meet the requirement. Okay, now how will that happen? People will ask, how will an employer actually not meeting a requirement? Now, operating a business and sponsoring someone with a visa under the employment sponsor visa is a totally different two issues. Now, operating a business, you can operate it by not making money. For instance, a lot of small business owners, they want to save their tax, not just to avoid tax, but if you're a startup, right, or you have just established a new cafe or restaurant, now the first year is likely making a loss because you have spent more than you actually getting into your revenues, right? So obviously the financial statement or the report will actually show a negative. Now, negative might not mean anything, but if you want to take that financial statement to become a standard business sponsor under the employment sponsor visa, it's likely that you're not going to get through. So that's one of the things that might have some issues there. It's the employer perhaps is not really meeting the validity to become a sponsor. That's the first one. Now, how would you actually know whether they are valid to actually get it done? It's actually quite hard. This is where the gray area is. Obviously, the employer wouldn't like to disclose their financial background with their employee. It's just awkward. It's just doesn't make any sense. So it would be really hard to actually understand that. So an independent migration agent or lawyer should really step in to assist on that part there. Now that's the first point. Now the second one is usually that the employer does have some sort of bad records. Now, apart from the financial side, which is the validity of the business sponsor's background, now one thing that you might not know is that the employer does have some bad records. Obviously, if they are the boss or your future boss or employer, they will not disclose that to their employee as well. Now, what sort of bad records can there be? Now, for instance, they have been through the Australian Border Forces. They have been going through their records, showing that they have not followed what the visa conditions had to be. Now, bear in mind, not just the visa holder have the condition, but the employer does have the condition as well. For example, they usually under the policy, 70% of the employee shall be locally hired. If they have overhired more than 70%, the Australian immigration officer or border force officer might query or question in regards to such. And the other thing is whether they have continuing providing the Skilling Australian Fund. Now, Skilling Australian Fund currently is paying one lot. However, it may become an installment in the future. So if they missed a payment, that's another problem there. Or perhaps they have been records within the Fair Work Council, Fair Work Australia, that they have not treating the employee correctly. There may have been a lot of complaints about this employer. Then that would be a bad record there as well. Now, how do you find that out? It's actually very hard. It's actually very hard because small issues usually won't go on media, and you cannot really search that. Can you do a search on your employer at the Fair Work Australia? I don't think you actually can. I don't think you can actually do that. But the only way you can find out is get the employer to lodge the standard business sponsorship, and they get rejected. But again, why would an employer, knowing that they have those bad records, and will still assist you lodging a business sponsorship whilst they know that perhaps their lawyer probably will advise them the application will not go through? So that's another bad side about employer sponsor. Now, the last part, the number 3, the most commonly that the employer sponsorship wouldn't allow you to actually pathway to permanent residency, it's basically the employer does not want you to get permanent residence. Yes, you heard that right. Now, obviously, an employment sponsor visa requires an employer to sponsor and nominate you. So if they do not wish to continue sponsor and nominate you, and obviously that you will not be able to lodge your permanent residency visa. Now, obviously, we have seen a news early this year in regards to a skilled migrant where the employer basically went bankrupt. Now he or she had already worked at that position for many years. Now, because the employer has bankrupt, nomination cannot be lodged, and subsequently his permanent residency pathway is gone. Now, whether or not this this will be fixed in regards to such incidents. Now, there is going to be two debates. Now, obviously, for the visa applicant, you'll feel that it's not fair. It's not fair to have such, we're talking about 186 TRT here. For the visa applicant, will feel it's not fair to actually have such incident happening, and then they have contributed all their lives for this employer and not getting their permanent residency. So that's one part. But the other part is, if employment sponsor visa holders can lodge a permanent residency without the employer continue to nominate and sponsor at the permanent residency stage, then the problem comes is that can a employee be sponsored and then they just left the post? They go work for someone else. Well, technically they can, but then it will be a mess. So the employer will then come to argue to the government saying, look, you provide this visa program and I cannot even secure this employee working for me. Why would I want to sponsor employee in the future? Okay, so this is two ways. You see the complication here. Obviously, all these complications will cause potential disasters. And that will be the three major ways that an employer sponsor would not likely to sponsor you for permanent residency. I've just done a little bit of brief. I don't know what your thoughts. Probably you can leave a comment right down below. And I see you next video. Goodbye.